happy to be here always on a Monday night. It's Monday night in Israel. My name is Dr. Tova Goldfein. I'm just going to turn off my phone, turn off my toys. This is TMS Roundtable Global. I am always thrilled. You guys always know how happy I am to be hanging out with Rose in Melbourne, Australia, my co-host and dearest friend. Shalom, Boker Tov. Good morning, Rose.
Good morning, Tova. You know, here in Australia, it's Valentine's Day. So, yeah, it's Tuesday morning. Yeah. So, welcome all, and welcome Rajit Singh. Now, this gentleman is an engineer. And if you think about it, our bodies are a most absolute engineering feat beyond our capacity to understand. Now, he has written an amazing book called The Straw That Broke the Camel's Back. Now, if you think about it, we've got a camel, very hardy animal that can spend hours and weeks in the desert or without water, resistant, resilient, powerful, strong, able to carry a load. Now, can you see yourselves like that? Resilient, able to carry a load. And then the straw comes that breaks the camel's back. Now, Rajit realized in his own research and development when he actually had that moment when all these pressures hit him so hard that his back went. Now, remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is a journey. And think about the camel. He's going from, I don't know, North Africa to
Saudi Arabia.
No, further. All the way around. All the way around to, I don't know, the
Australia.
other side of. Well, yes, we've got camels in Australia that were imported from Afghanistan. So, yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us introduce Rajit Singh, author and self-healed from chronic pain. So please tell us about yourself and your journey. Please incorporate your understanding, your scientific understanding as a engineer of mechanical electronic. I can't remember.
Whichever. All of it. I think all of it.
Yeah. And how that incorporates into our humanness. And you know, even our sort of triune brain, how that actually is affected. So enough of my talking. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for that, the lead in, Rose. And I love that you mentioned that I'm an engineer, and I think that helped me a lot in my healing because I wanted to figure out what was happening to me. And in engineering, when we solve a problem, we want to be able to reproduce it over and over and over again. Then we know for sure that that's the problem. And I could never reproduce my pain the same way each time. So I would, I remember talking to my dad and he goes, "Son, you are an engineer. You can figure this out. Take notes, And I was like, yeah, he's right. I should just be doing the same way I do my engineering projects. And I eventually figured out it was my quadratus lumborum muscle on the left side was the one that would really spasm. And it's one of the muscles that's blamed for lower back pain, along with the soleus. So, I said, okay, what movements did the quadratus do? And I looked at all the movements, bought this anatomy app and watched how the QL did all the movements. And I was like, but my QL's okay. I could do the movements that the QL was assisting in. And then I was like, if something's wrong with it, how am I not able to reproduce this? And why does it happen like every month or every 2 weeks when I get my flare-ups? And, maybe just by carrying a gallon of milk or sitting in a certain chair. Usually it was sitting that actually caused my pain. And I couldn't figure out how is it that I can sit, which is such a benign activity, and I get pain, and walking, it doesn't cause me pain. So there were so many parts that didn't add up in my pain. And, like if it was a mechanical issue that I was being told that it's a mechanical issue, then it should be a mechanical solution. You take your car to the garage, they change the part or they fix the part, and then you're good. So, that
Do
led
you
me to.
mind? I want to interrupt. Do you mind just telling us what was going on in your life when the back pain started?
Yeah, that's a great question. So 2009, my company filed for bankruptcy, and I that was I've been working for that company for 15 years, and I had invested, unfortunately, my money in the company stock. And when, in the United States at least, a company goes Chapter 11, then the stock goes to zero instantly. So there went 15 years of my life savings, and I would love to say my jaw dropped, but I didn't even. I was so numb that I didn't acknowledge what was
You're
happening, because
suffering.
it would.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it would imply that I screwed up being a perfectionist. It's not easy to face that I screwed up. So why bother? Like, it's not going to bring my money back. And so that's how my pain started. But I didn't realize that was the trigger, or the emotions that I was repressing. And I really started learning how to disconnect from the feelings that were coming up. And for the next 8 years, even simpler things like maybe going on a date and then not hearing back from the partner, or being told to work on a project that I didn't want to work on, those would trigger it. But I didn't realize that that's what was triggering the pain. I was blaming it on external factors, physical factors, like lifting, climbing stairs, sitting on a chair, and all the other things that were triggering my pain.
If you think in a way, your pain was triggered by certain activities. But what was the factor? If you think about a computer these days, we recognize that the computer program can have bugs in it, can't it? So in a way, it's our mind that's got a bug in it, isn't it?
Yeah,
Not the
yeah,
muscle. The muscle's
that's it.
fine.
Right. I
Yeah,
write a chapter in my book, and I'm a network engineer, so I work with the telecommunications, and we send signals back and forth, and that's what our brain does. Our brain sends signals. So
yeah,
one of the analogies that I write about in my book is the traffic signal. You have a green light, a red light, and a yellow light. Now, if the traffic signal starts behaving weird, then there's accidents on the road. And so imagine that that's a flare up. Your traffic signal sends the wrong signals, you get an accident. So what happens in real life? Ambulance comes, police comes, they clear the accident, they clear out all the traffic, and then traffic starts flowing again. But suddenly the signal goes wrong again. So they come and they replace the signal, they put a new one in. And then, a few days later, the signal goes wrong again. So the problem isn't in the signal. It's the traffic signal's okay, the roads are okay. The problem is there's a central controller controlling all the signals. You may have seen the movie The Italian Job, where they rob a bank and then they go to the central controller and make all the lights green so that they can get away. And then they turn all the lights red so that the police can't follow them. So the central controller is the brain. And if the signal keeps going wrong and we're trying to fix it at the local area and it's not solving the problem, then we need to step up to a higher level and say, okay, where's the signal coming from, and is the controller sending the right signal? And as I was describing earlier, when I become overwhelmed with emotions, I disconnect from them, so I don't want to see them anymore, and so I get the flare-ups, I get the pain. And in my book, I describe a very simple process on how anyone can reconnect back to emotions. If you want to use the word repressed, or I prefer to use the word disconnected, that I don't want to know about those emotions. So from an engineering signaling perspective, that's the way I look at it, as an analogy, that it's simply a signal that I'm ignoring, and so my traffic light's malfunctioning, and I'm getting the jams, or the accidents, and the pain and the flare-ups.
Tell us, how come you decide to throw the book away
Right. Talk
originally?
about what happened when you no, you
Hey,
were
I
eight
love that.
years dealing with this pain, 8 years, and in the beginning, you got the book. I want people to hear about this because many people, like Alan Gordon, threw the book across the room at his mother.
Oh, wow.
Did you know that?
No, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
he had a lot of really serious back stuff. I mean, big name headache and big name neurological thing. And his mother said, I want you to read this book. And he threw it against the room in his 20s and then like picked it up a couple of years later. So you had that same experience. Could you talk about that?
Yeah. So when my pain started, I went to see a doctor, and he was kind of hunched over on his desk. So I was like, this guy doesn't look like he's exactly, gonna be able to help me. And then he tells me about this book, Healing Back Pain, by Dr. John Sarno. And so he says some people get better by reading this book. And so I ordered this book, and I'm sitting in pain, and I'm reading it, and I get to this page here.
This page stumps me all the time.
Yeah,
Also.
the mind's eye, and like the mind and repressed unpleasant emotions. And this is when I just threw the book away. Just like, this is a hand-drawn picture by an MD, and telling me that's what's going to solve my pain. Really? Are you kidding me? And well, that led to 8 years of suffering, of completely. I wasn't in a place. I would be compassionate to myself that I wasn't in a place to understand what the book was saying, because I'd only had the pain for a few months. And so what he's describing is when you've gone through it for a few years. And there's one sentence in there that he says that sitting is such a benign activity. How can it cause you pain? And that made me just jump up. When 8 years later, when I did read the book again, and everything that he was saying was what I had experienced for the last 8 years. That my engineering mind said, "Oh, I'm looking in the wrong place. I'm looking at my body as a mechanical system, and I'm looking for the problem where it's happening, while I need to be looking somewhere else. I need to be looking at the central controller. I need to be looking at what was going on in my life when the pain started, and what is going on in my life right now."
Wow.
Yeah.
And what you learn the hard way is the relationship between the central controller and your subconscious, which is, or the head to the heart, or the place where people need to walk and be comfortable. And so continue, because now, so wait, so then I love the part of the story. We were privy to hear it before, but so you threw the book away. You continued to give your power and energy all to doctors, and all sorts of things happened. And then talk more about your journey, because I want people to hear that, I mean, these people are brave living with chronic pain. They're brave and courageous, and they'll get there. They'll get there, right, Rose?
Right.
What made you pick the book up again is what I want to know.
Yeah. So in the 7th year of my pain, I had just learned to live with it, and I hired a coach to help me with my life. And he goes, "What's your biggest problem in your life?" And I said, "My back pain." So he goes, "Well, let's fix that first." And I was like, no, let's kind of forget that, because I don't think I can fix it. And he goes, "No, I want you to go get another MRI, go see more doctors, and let's try to solve it." So I didn't really want to do it, but I went through the whole thing again. I got another MRI. I saw 3 or 4 more doctors. They put me through physical therapy, and exactly the same things started happening. I would go into physical therapy. For me, I would feel better when I was at physical therapy. And then the next day, the pain would return even stronger. Like, the muscle gets stronger, the pain is even worse. So that was really puzzling to me, was that, like, they're telling me to strengthen my core, but by strengthening my core, I'm actually experiencing more pain. And why do I feel better when I'm there? And why do I feel worse the next day? Why does it take a day, for the pain to pop up? And my physical therapy lasted 2 months, and I told the physical therapist, "I'm not getting better. I want to stay." And she said, "No, I cannot renew your physical therapy." And I remember having a big fight with her. I was like, "I'm not getting better. I must get better. You're gonna let me stay?" She goes, "Sorry, you have to go back and see the doctor." So I went back to the doctor and asked him to renew it, and he goes, "No, you're stuck with this for the rest of your life. I'm not going to renew it." And I think I love the word. I think Rose, you may have used this when I was telling you this. I hit rock bottom at that moment. That was rock bottom. Like 8 years ago, the MRI results are the same. The doctors are just saying you're stuck with this for the rest of your life. So I remember I like to speak in public, and I was giving a talk about there are some things in life that we just can't change. And so one of the audience, and I talked about my pain, that I have this pain, and I've just learned to live with it. And an audience member came up, and he goes, there's this book that some people, when they listen to this book, they get better. And I was very skeptical, and he said, do you want me to send it to you? I was like, okay. And he mailed me the audio version of the book as an MP3. And a couple of days later, I'm lying in bed in pain, and there's nothing better to do except just press play, because you don't even have to, open the pages. And I didn't realize it was this book until halfway through, when I said, "This sounds familiar," and I run to my Amazon account, see my order history, and it's like, yeah, that's it. I did order this book like 8 years ago, and I continued listening, and hearing the doctor's voice was very comforting. Hearing Sarno himself speaking and describing all the technical medical terms of what happens when you're in pain, and then all the reasons why it's very unlikely that that's what's causing the pain. Everything just fit into place for me, and I said, "Oh yes, I get it." With all my engineering research that I've done, everything's making sense. That it's about me. It's about how I'm living life, how I'm dealing with the things that are happening to me, and also how it started. When what was going on in my life when the pain started, and yeah, I got better very very fast in a matter of a week. The pain was gone, and then I learned. Uh, he doesn't. Dr. Sarna doesn't talk much about how to keep the pain away. Like, he helps you to understand the knowledge of what's causing it, and so I was concerned that, okay, I've become pain free, but I want to stay pain free. I don't want another flare up to be coming back. I can definitely feel that this is working, and that's when I discovered the Zero Pain Now process, which is by Adam Heller, and he uses a very simple process that you can use to repeat and learn how to connect to your emotions. And so I started using that process. There was a gentleman called Dan Buglio and Matthew Rossett. They were very helpful in guiding me on how to use this process, and it's been 6 years now. I've been pain free. I can swim. I can dance. I can do things that I wasn't able to do, and do more things that I never even thought I'd be able to do.
Could I interrupt there, as Tova says? What's your relationship to work now? It's something interesting. You're talking about that sort of leisure part of your life, but we spend 8 or even 10 hours or even longer if we're commuting, thinking about work, thinking about our relationship with work and things like that. How did that lift for you? Because with your financial, like losing that amount of money and losing virtually your life savings, and then your back becomes crippled, it sort of makes sense why you would be crippled. But I'm also thinking to actually veer into that area of not just the private life, because like there's 8 hours sleep, 8 hours work, 8 hours rest. So we've talked about our 8 hours relaxation, walking, running, swimming, whatever. But tell us about your 8 hours or more working and your attitude towards yourself in your working relationship, because I think it's an important thing, because money and the loss of money is often such a frightening thing, because our safety mechanism is knocked down. Do you mind?
Real trigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think one of the things that Sarno said, and Adam Heller says for the Zero Pain Now process, is to learn what are my personality traits. And for me, I'm a perfectionist. I'm hard on myself. I'm affected by easily sensitive to criticism. There's about like 10 personality traits. that are
Sure, but
listed.
what have you done with them? Do you still own those traits, or have you distanced yourself from them?
Yes, actually, I still have them all, and I'm just aware of them. So I
So
didn't
you
know
like
that
them?
yes, I didn't know that I had them.
Uh-huh.
You'd ask me if I was a perfectionist. I'll be like, no. Am I controlling? I'll be like, no, because those were Sarno uses the word self-image, right? So they don't comply to my self-image,
Yeah.
so I deny.
Yeah.
But introspection shows that I'm extremely controlling. I want to do A, B. I'm an engineer. That's my job, is to be controlling, right? Like you do A, B, C, and you get D as a result. That I've been trained to be an engineer, and I was doing that in my life. I was very controlling to people. I was very controlling to the things I was doing. A perfectionist is also, I'm required to be a perfectionist as an engineer. You don't want to build an airplane, with one wing a little shorter than the other, right?
Great
So
analogy.
you know,
Um,
Okay.
I'm trained to be a perfectionist and to realize, okay, when
Okay, but
should I be a
what about the
perfectionist?
criticism behind that? The criticism in your working now, when you are doing engineering research or development or whatever,
Mhm.
and you're stuck with a problem, how do you treat yourself with that problem? Do
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
it's still the same way.
Yeah.
Demand perfection. Do what needs to be done, and I'm now fully aware of how much emotion that generates in my body.
Beautiful.
Like
Yeah.
there may
Yeah.
be deadlines to meet, there may be deliverables, there may be uh, like limitations that I'm not allowed to use because of the budget. So there's frustration and anger and disappointment, and so by just becoming aware of that, and just noticing that these are simply emotions, but at the moment they don't have any meaning, as in I'm safe, everything's all right. It's just an opinion, or it's a conflict of a self-image, and that
Very good.
so I let the emotions pass. While
Yeah.
before it would be I wasn't even aware I was having them, and I was holding in those resentments or feelings.
You
That
witness and observe and you accept your
Yeah.
emotions.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm going to
And that's
interrupt
what I was
you.
talking about, that distancing from being that self-accusatory person that wants to have it perfect. Whereas if it's not perfect, it's okay as well. I mean, it's an important aspect. Yes, a TMS type person wants it perfect, but if it's not perfect, that's fair enough too. Yeah.
Right. Rajesh, I want to say two really important things in response to you, and then I'm going to answer Patty's question. But please hold up your book to show the listeners, and I do have it on our Facebook page, and it's just a brilliant title. I'm sorry I didn't think about it myself. It's a brilliant title, wonderful. Looks like a wonderful book, and I'm very excited to share it with our listeners. That's number one. Number two, everyone's controlling. It's a human nature, but not everybody gets TMS. So what we learn is that what Rose taught me is we're not here to change ourselves. We're here to accept ourselves, and we can be controlling and perfectionist and not get TMS.
Exactly.
The second thing I want to say, which is very important for people, and I'm not bad mouthing the medical system at all, but your physical therapist needed to say to you, it's normal to have pain after a treatment. It's normal to have pain after 8 years, and we're treating a muscle, we're treating your body, and you're full of fear. It's normal. Keep working on it. It's okay. Let's look at this objectively. So it was very black and white with physical therapy, where that at that point you could have had a different kind of healing. I just want people to know, when people get better, we feel pain. We know about extinction bursts. We know about exercising with pain and having that conditioned response. So I want people to know pain after exercise or pain after physical therapy is not a bad thing. Let's understand what's happening. Let's know you knew your body. You know your body so well now. That's the brilliance. That's the magic. That's the gift of this 8 years of pain. If I may be so, bossy to say that, I'm sorry. But anyway, so I'm really excited that you shared your book, and I'm excited that I got to comment on your stories so far, but we're going to hear more. First of all, Patty wants to know what your MR results say, even though it doesn't really matter, Patty. And what did you believe the diagnosis? That's her first question.
Yeah, I was told, or it still shows on my MRI, like 4 discs were degenerated. I had stenosis. I had something called Schnorr's nodes, which no one's ever heard of, which is,
I know what they are
the disc is,
on the bones.
yeah, it looks really scary. Like there's an explosion going on, you know, it's like they're puncturing into the spine or something like that. So I remember just
It's a
getting
normal
chills.
variant, as Sarno would say, a normal variant.
Yeah, and then bulging discs and herniated discs. So I had the whole 9 yards, and I remember just looking at the MRI was a like as if I'm staring into a lion that's about to eat me. You know, it's like just was like my whole. I said, "Oh my God, I'm only." It was, I think I was 37 at that time, and I said, "Wow, I'm now 80 years old, and I made myself 80 years old, and that's what I got." You know, it was. I thought, and I remember the doctor saying that your spine is like a 60-year-old. You know, and I wish he hadn't used those words, but he did. And so I believe that, you know, I believe that that this is what's happening, and now I've learned that these are normal signs of aging. You know, two out of 3 people that have an MRI don't have that. Out of 100 people that have pain, that don't have pain, 2 out of 3 have these same structural defects in their spine. So it's perfectly normal to have these and not expect any kind of pain.
Could I just be, what do you call it? Put another aspect to this. The spine is fine. It can be all sorts of degeneration because all it's there for is to support the spinal cord. But what about the muscles? Why doesn't the doctor tell you about the muscles that are stressed or tight that are causing all these problems? Because it's not really a spinal problem. It's a muscular problem, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah. So the back pain is not really about the bones, is it? It's about the muscles that support it. Yeah. We can't build a beautiful, high-rise building without having scaffolding, can we? Yeah. The scaffolding is our muscular system, isn't it?
Muscles are the key.
Right.
Yeah,
muscles are the key. They're the levers of your body.
Yeah.
So most of the remember in the movie All the Rage where Sarno's, banging the tuning fork on Michael's knee and everything, and then it's the muscles, it's the muscles, But I want to say, and I love Patty, you've been with us from the very beginning. You're really one of our greatest fans, and I want to say to you. So she says, I get so excited when I hear when people become pain-free. I don't think anybody is pain-free. I imagine you have sensations. Can you talk about that and what happens when you get a sensation in your quadrus lumborium? Because I imagine you still get a sensation.
Yes. I do actually feel my pain return sometimes, and I can feel that muscle tightening up, and right away I am okay. What am I disconnecting from? What's going on in my life right now that isn't working out the way I want it to, and I'm very results oriented, and I can be very attached to results, and to recognize that I did like these 20 things and I didn't get the results that I needed, and I'm furious, and I do feel unsafe at times, right? It's like we were talking, it's about safety. So these 20 things didn't work out. So then I make this fantasy about how life is going to be terrible, and I feel unsafe, and then the pain returns, just to recognize, okay, I'm disconnecting from these emotions, and I'm safe. I'm sitting right here, and I'm perfectly fine. Makes me think of an example of public speaking. You guys have probably heard of it, that they did a study where they said that people are more afraid of public speaking than death.
Oh my God.
Apparently,
right?
Yeah,
there's a study that shows, that most people are more scared of public speaking. They'd rather die than public speaking, and I remind myself that that's what I'm doing. Like these 20 things.
You're facing death, are you, every time you get up there on the podium?
Right. These 20 things didn't work out, so I'm so terrified I'm feeling so unsafe. and it's leading me to a feeling of non-safety, and that's what's generating all these emotions. And if I recognize that that my mind is creating it, making it worse than it really seems, so if the person was faced with a bullet or speaking, they'll probably speak. Right?
Yeah.
So even though they tell you that I'd rather die than speak, but when faced with it, the situation flips. So just for those that are listening to this program, one of the words we use for in Zero Pain Now is we call it diversion pain syndrome. It's to divert your attention from an unbearable emotion to something physical like pain. So that's the way Adam Heller defines it. And so that's what the mind is doing. I'd rather die than public speak, but when you're faced with it, you'll be fine. You can actually do the public speech and you'll be like, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought. So for those that are listening, if there is some emotion or some feeling that you don't want to connect to because it feels like you're going to be unsafe, you're going to be all right. It's okay. You're safe to feel it. And I've been there. I know Rose and Tova, you guys have probably been there too. That it's that leap. You just need to make that leap and trust that it's a fear that your mind is making up, that to make you feel unsafe. And once you confront it, you'll be all right.
Well, and your brain is helping you. Your brain is doing it to protect you. That's the counterintuitiveness of like, wait a minute, my brain's protecting me. My fight and flight is working for me. So there you go. The central, producer. That's we got it. We got to override the brain and be like, I'm okay. Brain, go be a brain. Go be a piece of flesh.
Right.
Rose, you were going to say something.
Yes, it's about vulnerability. When you're walking up the steps to the podium, your vulnerability is showing. Yeah. So if you take that back into your daily life, your vulnerability has to be accepted. Would that? Yes. Yeah. You're going to be vulnerable wherever you are because we're sort of like soft-shelled crabs, aren't we? We don't have our armor on.
Yeah.
So we're going to be vulnerable, and it's accepting that vulnerability. And when Brajesh was talking about fear and fear of death, I thought, yes, in actual fact, we're vulnerable every single day of the week, every day of the week. Well, we actually put it aside. So if we actually face that vulnerability, our back pain or our whatever, neck pain, headache, whatever, can actually peter out, can't it? Facing that vulnerability.
Right.
Don't you think it would change the medical world and the medical system if doctors would start to say, yes, your pain is an emotion. It's processed in your brain where your anger and fear are.
Yeah.
So you're expressing it through your body. So let's talk. Like, can you imagine the shift?
No, they don't have. Yeah, Tova, many doctors realize that, but what they can't do is go to the next step to help the person out with that. What do you call it? With the emotions? They can't go that next step because there's a split, and that's why I love that All the Rage movie, because he talks about Descartes and I think therefore I am, but in actual fact I feel therefore I am. But Descartes got it wrong. And the whole system actually went with Descartes and forgot about the body.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway.
Yeah. And I think you guys have probably experienced this when you share this with doctors, they get it right away.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, you're right. And
but it's a dead end.
Yeah, they haven't been trained, for the next step or even to refer that person to, a psychologist or somebody that specializes in this. So, but almost all doctors that I've spoken to are like, wide-eyed. They're like, oh yeah, like, and it's clear in medical world that stress exacerbates, I think is the word I'm looking for. Anything,
Yes.
any kind of illness, any kind of pain. When you add stress to it, it gets worse. So that correlation is very well known. Just that little shift into that is actually everything. That it's not just a little contribution, but it's like it's a significant contributor is the shift that I wish doctors could see and then refer people to experts.
Yeah, and you're an incredible example of even what Patty's talking about. Patty's making some great comments. You're a great example of how love heals, how compassion heals, how acceptance heals. Because acceptance and compassion and love are a chemical, are another hormone that heals. And so, you're a very sensitive, caring man. You always have been, and then you learn to channel that to serve you. So your process is just, an incredible journey of beginning, middle, and end, and it's not over yet because you're
Right.
evolving and
Yeah.
I mean, really, and I'm so interested also to hear about your, like, you told me when we were talking before about how you were writing like, to write the book. I mean, I don't know what it takes to do that. I'm always curious about the people that write about their pain journey. I mean, how did you manage to do all that and go back to work? And I mean, it just sounds like you got all this done, and and not all of it was perfectionist done. So how did you manage all that happening?
Well, I did write the book last year, so that was
Right.
5 years being pain-free. I really was still skeptical. For 5 years, I was still skeptical that have I really healed, and it took 5 years to say, you know what, I'm so convinced that I can write a book, and I need to write this book because I don't know if I'll be around, and I want this message or this information to be spread. So the more messages that are coming to the people that are in pain, the more believable it's going to be that this is going to work. And I also wanted to point out, if you do read my book, even though the story is about me, pretend it's about you. So the book isn't about me, it's about you. Every time you read it, whatever's happening to me, imagine if it's happening to you, and that will help you lead yourself to the solution. So it's very, very important, and I do write that in my book as well. That this book is not about me; it's really about you. Go
Wow.
through all the stages I went through, so that you can feel what's happening, and you'll also see the solution the same way that I did. Yeah, and so it was over the pandemic. I guess there was a lot of downtime, so I said, let me write a book and get this
I
out of the
I
way.
wondered about the genesis of how it actually you put it together.
Right.
When can you just draw a little bit more out about what's in the book and what's available for people so that we can actually get
Can you
something?
hold the book up again, please?
Yes,
Yeah.
sure.
And
Yeah.
or even describe how the chapters run so that people get an idea of what's the inspiration that they can get from it.
Yeah, I've broken it into three parts. So
Mm-hmm.
I start off with my story where I'm at hope's end, and
Mm-hmm.
everything is going wrong. I'm struggling, trying to make it work. Then
There's the
Act
straw.
Two, yeah, and then Act Two is in purgatory, living with the pain, how I was acting or behaving. People would invite me to things, and I'll be like, oh, I can't go, or because I'm in pain, but I don't want to tell them, or they don't necessarily understand. So what it means, like living in that situation, and all the things that I wanted to do but I couldn't do. I couldn't go to the movie theater, for example. For some reason, those movie theaters would trigger my back pain, and people would make fun of me. Come on, it's so comfortable. So it was living in that world of being not understood. And then finally, when the healing begins, and how I was able to start piecing together all the pieces of the puzzle that weren't fitting, and start seeing, oh, this doesn't make sense, that doesn't make sense, these studies from medicine show this, and a lot of wonderful videos out there showing a lot of medical studies about how 100% of pain is in the head, right? Like everything when we feel pain, our mind is actually creating that as a protection mechanism, and then it kind of goes uh, off balance, and then we start connecting. For example, the part of the brain that feels physical pain and the part that feels emotional pain are pretty much the same. So the wires can get crossed there. So when I started seeing these kinds of studies, and and noticing that, wait a moment, I can get better, that my body is all right, and then to discover that I'm just disconnected from certain emotions that I don't want to feel, and then I get to the end where there's a simple process that you can use for 30 days to apply this process on a daily basis. It involves a little bit of journaling, a little bit of speaking out loud, and really noticing the main thing, if you're listening to this and you're going to apply the process, is that all our emotions that are being generated in the mind are represented in feelings in the body somewhere. So if I'm feeling anxiety, I'll probably feel in my chest. If I'm feeling like sadness, it may be in my stomach, or if I'm feeling anger, it might be in my throat. My throat's being constricted. So uh, when you're doing the speaking out loud and labeling the emotions, that's really the process that we use. Um, Start dropping your mind and paying attention to the sensations that are coming in the body, and your body will speak to you and tell you what emotions you're feeling, and then you just call them out loud. And that's the way to start connecting back to the emotions, and do it for 30 days, because it's something that you've learned to do over your whole life, is learn how to disconnect them. So it's not going to happen overnight. Be patient, be compassionate with yourself, and really allow yourself to feel the sensations in the body and just label them as emotions. So that's sort of like
I want to do a rose. I want to do a rose for a minute.
What's that all
But
about?
you're an engineer. You should know better, because that came from your father. So because you bullied yourself a lot. I'm just noticing how the childhood stuff comes, and your dad was just being a father. My father was just like that, and I was just like that as a mother. So I think it's fascinating. And Rose told me how to,
It's intergenerational.
zero in on this.
Yeah.
That how hard you were on yourself and how you bullied yourself, and you should know better. And even now, I'm sure that comes up. You're not different. That you need to know this. You healed 8 years of pain. You need to know this. So I think it's fascinating that we are aware of how the language that we speak, and you're sharing some wonderful new language of observing feelings. However, zero pain now. I don't believe zero pain now exists, but zero pain now is concept. And
Right.
I think it's fascinating. We all have, repressed emotions, hidden emotions, defenses. I mean, and again, for everyone out there, not everything works for everybody, right, Rose? But everything will work for somebody. Something will work for everybody, right?
Okay. It's a journey. And that's why what Brajesh is bringing to us is that journey and that camel. Like from conception to death, we're on a journey. And often, Brajesh was talking about speaking to yourself and speaking out loud. So maybe there's a part in that when you speak out loud and you're critical of yourself, you can see it. It's important to see, because often we've got these Greek chorus in our heads telling us how we should live and act, but in actual fact, it's that self journey, that self talk that's putting us down. I think, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and
Tell me
I think
about this talking thing, because it's important.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I remember, I think I was talking to you, Rose. One of the ways I imagine it is like a bucket. I'll just use a cup like this.
Yep.
Let's say this is maybe we have a part in our body that holds all the emotions, right? And when this fills up and starts overflowing, then we get our flare-ups. So by speaking out loud and calling out those emotions, we're actually draining this bucket. We're emptying out the emotions that are being held in our body. So by just labeling them and calling them out, I'm feeling frustration, I'm feeling sadness, I'm feeling disappointment, I'm feeling anger, and just keep labeling, I'm emptying that bucket. So that's one of the ways I look at it. And also filling the bucket, how do I fill the bucket is by my personality traits. Like, I'm a perfectionist, I'm hard on myself, I'm sensitive to criticism, and all these is, if I just notice these, then I don't fill the bucket anymore. In other words, I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm like, I can see I'm trying to be a perfectionist here. Okay, lighten up, relax. It may work, it may not work. I don't know. I'm not in control. There's only so many things that I'm in control of. The rest, I would love to have this happen, and it may happen, it may not happen. So
Yeah,
now
but you're
I'm
not
feeling.
omnipotent.
I'm not. Yeah, I love to be, but not this life. Yeah, so that's the way I look at it. It's like calling it out, speaking it out loud is helping me to empty this bucket, and noticing my personality traits and doing all the wonderful things that, like meditation or the state of being. There's a lot of studies now on the way that you're being, and kindness, compassion, all those help to slow down how the bucket is being filled.
Yeah.
I also wanted to share one more thing that I didn't talk to you guys about, was that, like you said, the pain does return. I tore a calf muscle earlier this year while I was playing pickleball.
Wow,
And
tear is it's a painful thing, a tear.
very painful. And, like it took about 3 months before it healed. And after it got better, I jumped and it started hurting again. And for the next 2 months, the pain started getting worse and worse and worse. And I was thinking, hey, I help people get better from pain, and yet I'm not getting better. So I just want to point out that even as an expert, I still am fallible. Is that the word? Fallible?
Fallible.
Yeah, fallible to this. Um, and no matter how much I was feeling my emotions, the pain was still there. So some people in the audience might be experiencing this, like, hey, I'm feeling all the emotions, but the pain is still there. And I had to switch my physical therapist to a different one, and she asked me to do all these movements with my feet, and she says that your muscles are fine. You would not be able to do these movements if your muscle was still damaged. Like, I thought I jumped and re-injured it, and she goes, "You're fine. Your pain. Are you a person that is in your head a lot?" And I was like, I like this person. So, and within 2 weeks, gone. It was just like I needed the confidence to know that I was healed, and I've never had an injury in my life before. So it was a little bit traumatic for me, to have a calf tear and go through. I live by myself, so being to do all the things by myself was possibly scary. And so with her help, and to know that the calf was healed, I was able to start increasing my physical activity and get better. And I still remember that, yeah, there's two main things for getting better. You must know that you're safe, and you must connect to your emotions. So
Wow.
so at that moment, I was not feeling safe. That's what I realized.
That's
I was
right.
feeling all the
Yes.
emotions, but I was still worried that I'm going to re-injure myself. So I just wanted to point that out. That there's
Beautiful.
two main factors in getting better. You must know that you're safe, and connect to emotions that you don't necessarily want to connect to.
Would you mind if I just use that story that you've just spoken about? If you think about Rajesh is playing pickleball, and he may be saying to himself, "Oh, I didn't do that very well." The muscle tightens, and then the ligament tears. Something so simple, and that's why I love his book about the straw, because in actual fact, that self-criticism or whatever that would have strayed into his mind actually created a tension in the muscle, and the tension so tight that the ligament is going to tear, because the ligament hasn't got flexibility, the muscle has. So just
Wow.
to thank you for allowing me to use that example.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's about our thoughts that create our muscle movement. Yeah, I mean we can consciously flex our muscles, but our muscles will flex without us actually telling them to. When we reach for something, our muscles flex. So we're not actually saying, I need to flex my muscles to pick up the cup. My muscle flexes to do it. And that's the thought pattern in behind the scenes then that create the incidents, I suppose you would call it, or the what's it called? The effects of your thoughts. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And tell me this, 8 years ago, and I would have thought that like doing voodoo.
A little new age, a little too new age for you.
Yeah, it's really new age for
The
me.
first thing I say to people is, this is not new age. I'm like still defending it because it doesn't, it's not, it's like, it's counterintuitive.
Right.
It's counterintuitive, a lot of it.
There's a quote that I put in my book. I don't know if it's readable. It's by Daniel Kahneman.
Read it out because it's too small.
He wrote the book called Thinking Fast and Slow, and he won the Nobel Prize for Psychology, I think, in 2002 for this book and his research. I love the statement. He says, "You think with your body, not only with your brain." And this is from a Nobel laureate.
I love it. I want to write it. Go ahead. Say it again.
You think with your body, not only with your brain.
You think.
But can you type that in on
your body?
Sidebar?
Yeah.
Not only with your brain.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I.
No, Tova can type. No, she's the only one who can type.
You think with your body, not only with your brain.
Yeah.
What's the name of the guy?
His name is Daniel Kahneman. He's actually Israeli. Kahneman.
Neman. And the book he wrote?
Thinking Fast and Slow.
Excellent. Fast.
Okay, and
it's an amazing book. Yeah, like really enjoyed reading it because he talks about how many fallacies we have. He lists about 200 fallacies that we have, where we see, let's say, we see two lines and we think one is longer than the other, but they're actually the same length. You guys have probably seen those kind of optical illusions.
Yes.
And he lists 200 of those of how we're completely unaware of what's happening in our unconscious. And I actually wrote to him. I said, can I, put this in my book? And in 15 minutes, he replied back. He goes, yes.
Wow.
Such a wonderful guy.
This takes the statement that I use a little bit deeper. Someone told me this, a patient of mine in Israel, don't think what you know what you know. But that's a little vague.
Know what you think, actually, too.
This is like, apply what you know, implement what you know, dive into the know, dive into, like, it's something deeper. We can't just say it. We have to really, like, this is very beautiful. I'm very happy that you shared that, Rajesh.
Yeah. But you've got to actually see the fear of diving in, Tova. You've got to, it's all right to say dive in, but you've got to see the fear. Like, if I'm on a springboard trying to jump into the river, whatever you call it, I'm going to be full of fear.
Yeah.
So I've got to face the fear.
And even though you jump in and land and you're okay, you're going to be traumatized because of that fear. The fear didn't get processed into like it just got stored. Or that. I mean, it's interesting. It's very interesting.
I still, when I go to public speak, I sometimes, right before I wish a hole would appear and swallow me, then go on stage. It's that scary, but I know that it's just, and terrifying. I love public speaking, and I think I love it because of, I guess I get a high on it. But
I was going to say,
but every time I'm on stage, I'm thinking, why am I doing this? Whose bright idea was this?
That's right. So tell us where you do this public speaking so that anyone can tap into it if they're in that way.
Oh, I go to the storytelling events, like Mike's. I don't know if you've heard of The Moth. It's like a storytelling event. And I'm a part, The Moth, like a butterfly, but The Moth.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Is it in Florida where you live?
They're all over the United States.
Wow.
Tova, can you type that in the side so the people side
The Moth?
Yeah, The Moth.
It's a storytelling event?
Yes. Yeah, it's nationwide, at least in the United States.
The Moth, storytelling event where people speak live.
Yeah, you put your name in a hat, and then they pull out names, and if it's your turn, you come up and tell a story, and it's like 200 or 300 people in the audience.
Patty. Patty put up the Patty's amazing. Patty, do you want to help me produce the show next week? You're amazing.
Nice. I think there was a famous actor that, every time he came on stage, he would throw up. Um,
Oh, of course. I mean, we hear the stories
yeah.
all the time about that. Oh my goodness.
And there's so many phrases in the English language that are visceral phrases, like that person gets on my nerve, or get off my back, or
You're
Yeah,
pain in
like
my
all
neck.
of that.
You're
yeah,
pain in
you're
my
pain in
neck.
my neck, pain in the butt, or get off my chest, that we use without even thinking, right? But they're all telling us that this mind-body connection is real. Like you said, Rose, that when I tore my calf muscle, that's all connected. It's all
Exactly.
connected. Yeah.
Yeah, all connected. And it could be something so trivial as, oh, I didn't do that the right way. Oh,
Mhm.
if my father was watching, he criticized me. Or,
Right.
my mother would be disappointed with me. Or so many things, so small, small things. And of course, that's why I love the name of your book. It's just that strong, huge camel that can cross the Sahara Desert, and yet it can be broken as well.
Wow, unbelievable. Unbelievable. So I'm just so excited. I was very attracted not only to your bald head, which I was telling Rajesh, in Israel, many men they go bald now, and it's very big and it's very nice. Your beautiful bald head, and you had a beautiful hat on. I noticed that months ago, and then I noticed the book and the title, which really drew me. And then I didn't know who you were. Were you an Indian? This and that. But I'm so happy that you responded to our reaching out to you, and you were so willing to come on. And I'm fascinated. I'd like to maybe invite Adam Heller on, because Zero Pain Now. I mean, I don't like the title because
Right.
I don't like the word anything zero. I like more balance, but that's just my personal opinion, which I do give a lot. But I would love to maybe have Adam Heller on to speak about his program, because there's nothing new under the sun. Rose, why are you
Right.
closing your eyes and sighing at me?
Stop for a minute, because when people guarantee something is going to work, it's going to build resistance in people.
I feel that resistance.
So
Yeah.
Zero Pain Now
Yeah.
indicates that I'm going to fix you, whereas in actual fact, we're fixing ourselves.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to interrupt you. Sorry about that.
Yes. No.
Yeah.
No. And I think Rose and I would have a nice conversation with maybe Adam and you speaking, because it's beautiful work. It's a lot about feelings. It's a lot about emotions. He picked up something very smart. And I'm thrilled that you're still doing engineering, and that you've healed from your bankruptcy, which now you're rich, completely rich. Rich
Yeah.
with,
Actually, Brajesh, what about writing a book about recovery from total loss? Because I mean, losing your investment, a huge investment like that, I don't know. I just thought, because this is very important, especially, like the word on the street is at the moment, we're going to have a recession, and, all these IT companies are laying off their people. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that
It's
like the
in the
change
air.
in mindset helps a lot too. The
Yeah.
the noticing of the emotions, it almost unclouds me and lets me make better decisions. So, before, I think I was clouded with the emotions that I wasn't allowing to pass through, and I wasn't even making smart decisions. So, in terms of, I'm sure you guys have experienced this too. I'm more assertive, more decisive. So, just life will unfold in a different way than when I was in pain.
Could I also mention that you probably feel lighter physically in your body?
Yeah.
I know we haven't got, we're actually over time, but it's that physicality of actually recognizing what's happening to you, and then your whole body, your shoulders, everything drops. Can you just give us, for the audience, give us an idea of physically how that feels?
Yeah,
Because,
it's a great example for me is that I never really cared for dancing until I got into pain. And then I would go out with friends and they would be dancing, and I was like, I can't do that. Because every time I would dance, I would get into pain. So when I became pain free, I told myself, I'm going to learn how to dance. And so I've been
Well,
taking salsa classes and
Ah,
bachata classes,
oh,
and
lovely.
it's so wonderful. It's so, I don't even know the words to say. The fact that I can dance, it makes me so happy. You know, like you say, feeling light. Yeah, you know, I'm doing these twirls and twists and, you know, bends, and I was like, wow, I
what?
can't
But you're an
imagine.
engineer. How can you do that?
Yeah,
You're an engineer.
right. You know, I'm so grateful to
Yeah,
the universe or God or whoever you want to believe in, that I can do this.
yeah.
It's just a gift, you know. It's just and yeah, I feel very light. I don't, while I'm dancing, I don't even think about my body. It's
Mm,
just doing what it's supposed to do without me knowing how it's doing it. And when I
yeah,
watch the video, I'm like, wow, that's me, really. You know? uh,
Beautiful.
that's amazing. So yeah, we definitely will feel a lot lighter in our body.
yes.
Right.
It's amazing.
Wonderful.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to close. So, thank you so much for sharing. Now, Tova, you've put in Rajesh's
Yeah,
information on the
he's
sidebar,
all
haven't
over
you?
our Facebook page. The Camels all over
Yeah,
our Facebook page. If anybody wants to
good.
find you, you can find. You can always contact Rose and I. Rose and I are also clinicians in this work and helping people. And so there's plenty of support and help on our YouTube. And we're back every week. And thrilled to have met Brajesh.
Yes. And you can get his book on Amazon, and it's got lots and lots of lovely reviews. So it was so lovely reading those reviews, Rajesh.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show, and I wish
It's
everybody a pain-free life
right,
and
right.
healing.
And getting better at feeling, not so much feeling better, getting better at feeling.
Love, I like that. Yeah.
Michael
Not,
Brown, Michael Brown from the Presence Process. Let's get better at feeling, not so much feeling better.
wow.
And remember, they're just sensations. And if we add fear to it, it turns into pain. Just remember that. They're just
Right.
sensations. And I have a disc herniation too. And I think Rose you probably do too. Anyway, I'll examine you when I meet you, when I see you in April. So have a wonderful day, Rose. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, wonderful afternoon. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much. God bless.
Right.
bye
Bye.
bye. Bye
Bye-bye.
all. Bye.
Okay, 1 second. We're going.